Oh, I am having technical difficulties. Welcome to Beyond the Barricade. I am your host, Papa Dank, and today I'm going to bring to you my very special guest, the one, the only, Noah Vales. What is going on with my laptop? My laptop is crashing on me, bud. How you doing?
How are you doing? I'm doing okay.
Oh man, I'm doing great, man. I'm all the way up here in New York, and let everybody know where you're from right now.
I am from the forgotten state of Florida.
I don't think it's that regard.
You'd be surprised. A little bit of a controversial topic, but you know what? A little bit of work here and there from me and a couple others. We're making it better slowly but surely.
Oh, they're loving your outfit. Nakoma Tala, who is also a professional wrestler up here in the Northeast. Actually, she's kind of everywhere, so I can't even say that. All right, let me bring to you some stuff you got going on. You got Murder One Savage 16 coming up as you face Austin Thorne over there
That I
in
do.
Georgia.
Yes, it is.
All right, tell me about this match coming up.
So, a little bit of background. Savage 16 is a tournament being put on by Southern States Pro Wrestling. Effectively, what they asked for were some of the best and brightest young talent in the Southeast. And of course, Noah Vale answered the call because there's no one better or brighter than me in the Southeastern region. And with this, it is a round robin tournament.
Huh.
Obviously, you're a well versed professional wrestling fan, so I'm assuming that you've heard of the G1.
I have, yes.
It is very similar to the G1 in terms of how the tournament functions. Everyone in their block is going to wrestle everyone. At this current moment, I am in A block. I am the leader of A block. I am in the second week of the tournament, and I'm currently undefeated with 6 points. Now, my opponent, Austin Thorne, I believe, is coming in with only 3, so they've got a little bit of catching up to do if they want to try and beat me by the end of this, but I don't think math is on their side at this point. But the Savage 16 itself also has something great for the victor. If you were to win the Savage 16, you would get a shot at the SSP heavyweight champion, who you may know is Danny Briggs, one half of the ex NXT tag team champions with Oni Lorcan.
Wow, that sounds like it's going to be a great main event once everything is all said and done.
Oh, I am sure it will be, considering the fact that it's going to obviously be me versus Danny Briggs, but
Uh,
that's a little bit of a spoiler for anybody who's watching.
Spoiler alert. All right, good stuff, good stuff. Next up, you have. Oh, is that Marrow Pro of Gods and
It
Monsters?
it is. So, Mero Pro Wrestling, a new promotion down here in Florida.
Okay.
They again, it's something that's going to come up a lot when it comes to no avail. Whenever you need the best, the brightest, the greatest talents, you always ask for no avail. It's kind of a recurring thing. Mero Pro Wrestling, this is their second show. The first show, they had me and my tag team partner Azrael Rowe go up against a tag team young in the game named Kiss It. Of course, we came out on top because as the wily, smart veterans, it was a no-brainer. But for this match in particular, this is a little bit more close to my heart. As a member of the LGBTQ community here in the South, I love to give opportunities to other LGBTQ wrestlers. Specifically, one who has come down here as a transplant is a good friend of mine, someone who I've kind of taken underneath my wing, young Kendall Ryan, who, well, let's just say, needs to understand the skill gap between her and myself in terms of professional wrestling. July 13th, I get the perfect opportunity to teach that in a live demonstration by showing that I'm just better than certain people. But hopefully, all things said and done, this will be a great learning experience for her. And, she can go on and continue doing whatever it is that she wants to do in the future and just understanding that, there's levels to this.
Okay, all right, and that's taking place this Saturday night, July
It
13th at
is.
7 p.m. sharp. And what part of Florida will that be held at?
That is going to be in Brandon, Florida.
Brandon. Okay. Is that near anything that I would recognize?
Gosh, if my mad geometry is, it's between Orlando and Tampa, I believe, somewhere in that general
Okay.
range.
All right.
I'm on the road so often that I just the maps start getting confused after a while.
How often are you traveling doing wrestling?
Oh gosh, I am out of the state at least 2-3 times a month, if
Wow.
that. And that's being conservative, I would say. There's a promotion in Indianapolis of which I am the co-holder of the tag team championships called Nap 10 All Pro in Indianapolis, Indiana, my home in wrestling. I'm usually there about once a month. The Savage 16 is going on until I believe the finals are in December, so I'm going to Georgia at least twice a month to take care of those rounds. And then I am also a fair regular at Paradigm Pro Wrestling in Jeffersonville, Indiana as well. And then, I bop around to California, to Vegas. I'm
Wow. You're all
everywhere.
over,
I
man.
I am well seasoned and well traveled, let's say.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So let everybody know how you fell in love with professional wrestling.
Oh gosh. So this is going to be a little bit of a long story, but I don't think that we have too big of a time restraint on this. You're going to find that I'm a very good talker. So
Okay.
picture a young 8 or 9 year old Noah Vale, and their uncle has left a bit of paraphernalia and accoutrement in the house as he's currently just moved out. So you go and you're digging around and you find a DVD,
Hmm.
Vengeance 2001.
Wow.
Specifically, I remember that very vividly as the pay-per-view where Chris Jericho wins the undisputed title and set me on a path of hating Chris Jericho for a very long part of my life. Um, but that was the first instance I can really remember of watching professional wrestling. Very shortly after that, I think it was about the time that I think it was Kelly was put over Big Show's knee and spanked. My mother said, "You're never watching that again." To which that worked for about a month or two before I snuck the DVD back and finished the pay per view.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that kind of started watching it semi regularly as most of us do when we were young. What really got me into it and made me fall in love with the sport to a point where I wanted to become a wrestler was New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP Junior Heavyweight match between Finn Balor and Low Ki. That match came at a point where I was just discovering independent professional wrestling and wrestling outside the WWE. So it's that match. It's Samurai Del Sol, also known as Kalisto, versus AR Fox and CZW.
Wow.
And it's these matches that I see, and I guess it clicks in my head of just, wow, people get trained to do this. People go out and they make this their profession, and they make this something that they have committed themselves to doing. And for me, that
Right.
was a big thing, being able to see that. So after that, I very quickly made the decision of like, yeah, I want to get dumped on my head for fun.
Well, that was a big decision you made, and I'm glad you're able to live out your dreams of being a professional wrestler.
It is daunting at times, very rewarding, but also incredibly exhausting. Like I said, I'm on
For
the road
sure.
quite a bit, which is uh, the goal that you want, but also sometimes, man, those miles start hitting you, and you start to regret some decisions when you're still 6 hours deep in that drive, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're not quite sure when you're going to get home.
Oh, I bet, man. Now, I work with several promotions, and my drives are probably the longest I've had is close to 3 hours each way,
Yep.
and to do that all in a 24-hour time span, it's tough.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's a
Let me.
tough thing.
So, so I'm gonna mess with your mind a little bit because people I
Okay.
think oftentimes forget how big Florida is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always quick to bring this up to people. So you said that longest drive is 3 hours, and of course I'm not comparing our struggles or anything to that effect.
Right.
Um, for me, that would get me to Ocala, which is close to the middle of the state. Most of the time, to get out, like from where I am in the Sarasota area, to get
Uh-huh.
to Georgia's border at the very least, minimum 5-6 hours.
Wow. That's like driving from here in Long Island where I'm at to like Massachusetts, which is in near Boston, like that area.
Which is for me conceptually is insane, right? A lot of my Midwest friends always talk about how very early in their careers they would hop around states because they were so close. They'll be like, yeah, it's an hour to get here, and then an hour to get to this state, and then Chicago's 45 minutes. That blows my mind because 45 minutes for me, and I'm just hitting like St. Pete, Tampa. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Wow. Man, that is a lot of traveling. So, what kind of music you listening to on the drive?
Oh gosh. Really, it's a mix of things that oftentimes just depends what mood I'm in. I have my playlists divided by like five, right? So of course I've got my culture playlist, which is just rap, hip hop, R&B, and then because I grew up as dirty punk kid, I've also got my punk rock playlist. Um, and then every so often, when it's late at night, when we're driving, when we're trying to keep ourselves calm and we're trying to keep awake, I'll put on like my '60s soul. So it's a lot
Huh.
of it's a lot of the mamas and papas. It's a lot of just old '60s records that always takes people by surprise whenever they're in the car with me.
I love that you listen to all that stuff. That's great stuff, man. I was just listening to the Doors not too like during the week.
Oh my god, big Doors fan, big Doors fan.
Love the Doors. Did you
If
ever
you're
watch the movie?
I did not see the movie, but I was actually going to say the recommendation. If you're into that sort of, or if anyone is into that sort of like old school, like funk and soul stuff, there's a great documentary on Hulu called Summer of Soul.
Hmm.
It basically is a found footage film about this festival that was happened in, I believe it was New York City. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Um, and it was effectively in the heart. It was because it was the Harlem Cultural Festival. It was the Harlem Cultural Festival, and the footage of the actual festival was thought to have been lost for a number of years. And uh, they were able to find the footage. Questlove was able to like restore it, and basically
Oh
they
wow.
the documentary itself is basically going through these different acts of like Gladys Knight.
Oh
Oh my
wow.
goodness. My mind is blanking. It's been a long day. You'll have to apologize, or I'll have to apologize. Nina Simone and all these great acts, Sly and the Family Stone, and so on and so forth, and just the live footage of these people in a lot of their primes, performing live in front of a crowd of people. It's just mwah.
That's awesome. Well, we got something for you. Bryson Barnett says if Bill Withers ain't a part of your playlist, you're wrong.
He's in there. He is absolutely in there.
That's good, man. That's good stuff. All right, let's go into favorite opponent so far that you've wrestled and why.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's so hard.
You
Um,
name a couple if you want.
okay. Favorite opponents that I've wrestled. I would have to say that my favorite opponents that I've wrestled thus far in my career, um, I'm gonna hate saying this, and I know he's gonna use this against me the next time that I'm around him. AJ Francis is one of the first ones that come to mind.
Top dollar.
Uh, he there. I Our brains clicked a lot faster than I thought, and he's real fun to wrestle. And I hate that I'm saying that. I really do, because I know for a fact that if he ever hears this, he's going to bring it up. Um, but AJ Francis was a fantastic opponent. Um, I will never get tired of wrestling a Joseph Alexander A game. Fantastic opponent. Every time that we get in the ring together, we just beat the hell out of each other. And it's he's one of the few opponents that I have that just has carte blanche of just hit me, whatever you want to do, just hit me. Um, and I'll be, and then for someone who uh, I think might maybe take a little bit of surprise from some, but maybe not. Uh, the ex Blanco Loco, also known as Orion, is somebody that every time that I have wrestled with him, it is a learning experience that I am privileged to get to have.
Okay, all right. Now since you brought up Mr. AJ Francis, what was the best advice he ever gave you?
Ooh, the best advice AJ Francis ever gave me. Um, it wasn't as much advice as much as it was the way in which he conducts business. There was a point where we were speaking about a promotion, and the promotion doesn't necessarily need to be named, but he very bluntly asked, or very bluntly told me when I asked about his work with them, uh, I'm going to be leaving them very soon. And when I asked him, I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, they don't necessarily respect my talents. And I think since we've had that conversation, he no longer wrestles there.
Uh-huh.
It was a smaller promotion that doesn't have to be worried about, but him saying that, I guess, reinforced something in my head of you have to know your value. Because since then, he's
Okay.
gone on to do amazing things with the TNA Digital Media Championship,
100%.
con- having a banger feud with PCO, continuing to go viral. Doing AJ Francis top dollar stuff, whatever.
Yeah. No, 100%. I met AJ at a convention and he was really nice to boot.
Very nice person. If I see him in the ring again, though, he's a bastard,
It's over.
and he's a bastard.
It's over. All right.
I respect him as a businessman, but that's about it.
Tell me about an opponent or opponents you want to wrestle in the future that you haven't wrestled in your career.
Oh gosh. My tag partner Athro Namada would probably break my legs if I didn't mention Miracle Generation.
Miracle Generation. I know those guys.
I would. I know that they have been on our list for quite some time in tag team competition. I would love to get my hands on Alec Price at some point.
Okay.
Who else? Effie, of course. Dark Sheik, of course. Big one that I think may be an impossible one. My big audacious opponent, Alex Shelley.
Alex Shelley. Okay. All right. That's it. That's
Alex
a big
Shelley. One. Top of the list. I feel that a lot of my style as a professional is based off of guys like Shelley, based off of guys like TJP, based off of guys like Zack Sabre Jr. And so I feel that I have to, punish them for allowing me to exist in this space.
All right.
Let them see the monster that they've created.
Let's go. If you could go work in any or train in any country outside of the U.S., which country would it be and why?
Oh, the UK without a shadow of a doubt, easily, no hesitation whatsoever.
What draws you to go there?
I'm a huge fan of the Brit Rest style, the catch as catch can style. When I first got started, a lot of what really intrigued me when I was first learning the fundamentals was watching those guys like Zack Sabre Jr., watching those guys like Flash Morgan Webster, watching those guys like Martin Kirby. Gosh, the list, I can continue going down the list. Johnny Saint, Rollerball Rocco, William Regal, Finley. The style that they have of very much focusing on the grappling of professional wrestling, but also like when that 2016 Brit Rest sort of explosion happened where it starts mixing in some of the lucha and you get the guys like the Mark Andrews and the Will Ospreys and they're mixing in the catch as catch can with the high flying stuff. Oh my, mwah. It's a beautiful style that I think art. Doesn't exactly, and it's a beautiful style that I feel like doesn't get enough credit as much as some of the other styles like the Japanese strong style and the lucha and so on, because what they have over there is just so unique. And I think Zack Sabre Jr. is a very good example of like what that at a very, very high level looks like. And if you can take that and alter it and change it and like take a couple of those tricks and make it your own, the sky's the limit. Sky's the absolute limit.
Okay, good stuff so far. All right, Noah. So next up, what do you like to do for fun? Do you collect anything? Do you hang out? Like, what does Noah Vale like to do for fun?
Noah Vale is a very, very well-known D&D enthusiast. But something that I also don't refer, I am a big figure collector. It's not anything necessarily particular in terms of the figures themselves, but it's the characters and so on and so forth that I like adding to my collection. My latest find actually was they do these small little like cheap-ish runs that are kind of like almost like the small packaged figures that they would have had in like the 1980s that are like very tiny little figures.
Uh-huh.
I found one of Bootsy Collins, and it struck me as just being so odd because I'm like, first off, why is there a Bootsy Collins action figure? That's insane.
Uh-huh.
And then my next question was, why don't I own it? Um, so that was one of my finds. But I also collect
Okay.
things, off of comic books and so on and so forth. One of my prized possessions, I have a small little figurine of the Justice League animated Flash as like a little
Oh,
tiny
okay.
statue, but small things like that.
All right. So I assume you watched the Flash movie that came out.
I did.
What were your thoughts on the Flash movie?
Uh, for a very so context, two of my favorite superheroes of all time, the Flash and the Green Lantern. So for me, the prospect of a Flash movie was something that I was very excited for.
Right.
The marketing of them being like, this is the greatest superhero movie of all time, and it made me
Yeah.
cry, and all the it was okay, it was fine,
It
it was
wasn't
fun.
like how it was hyped up to be.
Not at all. It
Right.
was it was
I
it was
understand.
very
Trust me.
it was very fine. I think it was cool seeing Nicolas Cage as his variation of Superman. Um, I think if they want to try and do something with the DC like cinematic universe, they have the capabilities to do it. But I need a better Flash than Ezra Miller. But that's just me.
Okay.
That's just me.
Well, you know about the reboot, right?
I have heard of it.
Okay.
I'm personally, I'm growing up. My mom and we would watch the Flash CW TV show a lot.
Yes,
Uh,
that's one of my favorite shows.
Very disappointed that they didn't just take him and then just be like, "You're the
And use that.
you're movie Flash." Would have been the smarter decision, but hey, I don't make billions of dollars as a movie executive, so
Right.
what do I know?
All right. Currently coming up in the new DCU reboot is the Superman film directed by James Gunn.
It is.
It is, and are you excited?
I am very interested. I think I am one of the four people who liked Blue Beetle, um,
I like
because
Blue
I
Beetle as well.
it was a fun movie, and I
It
like the
was
Blue
fun.
Beetle character from the little things that I've seen of him just in like comics and video games. And I think that if they continue to go in the direction and they take away some of the outside meddling with the extended universe, I think they'll be fine. But I'm hoping that it's good. I'm hoping that they continue down the path. I'm honestly most excited for the Penguin show on HBO.
Yes, that's coming up in October, and I'm also excited. I just saw the preview for that, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
It My partner and I, we saw the Batman, and once we left, the film hadn't even fully ended, but I can't remember which scene it was. I believe it was the opening scene where he's in the alleyway and it's dark and they're shooting at him, and then it finishes up and he's pulling the bullets out of himself,
Uh-huh.
and we both looked at each other and were like, "That's Batman."
He did a pretty good Batman. He did.
Did fantastic.
I thought the guy who played the Riddler was amazing.
Oh, the
So,
scene where he's in the cell
such a
singing
great
Ave,
actor.
mwah, chef's kiss.
Such a
Everything
great
about it
actor,
was
that guy.
perfect.
All right, let's go to some comments. Bryson says, I've been seeing Norvell a lot on my Facebook, and his style is truly a one of a kind. Good stuff from Bryson. And Serena says, what's one piece of advice you wish someone would have given you when you first started wrestling?
Oh, one piece of
Good
advice.
question.
I would say that the one piece of advice that I would give is only one piece of advice. How about this? I'll give beginner advice, then I'll give intermediate advice.
Okay.
Beginner advice, I would probably say would be, don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to get creative with who you are, how you portray yourself, and the types of things that you can get yourself into. Um, you never know where you're going to find yourself, and a lot of us get into wrestling really young. If you're getting into wrestling when you're 17, 18, 19, you are not a fully developed human being yet. um, and you're
I know
going
a
to
couple of
figure
young
out,
wrestlers.
yeah, and you're going to figure out who you are through professional wrestling. And that can be either a really good thing or a really bad thing. And for a lot of people, I think giving yourself the opportunity to be flexible and to be malleable and to explore different aspects of yourself. For me, I realized my queer identity while I was wrestling. I don't know how comfortable with myself I would have been had it not been for professional wrestling and not been for finding new ways to express myself through that. So I think for a lot of people, it's just you're going to go through a life journey and a wrestling journey. Be open to both. And then intermediate advice: leave. Leave your hometown. Leave your home state. Go everywhere. You want to be on a show? Go to that state and wrestle for all the promotions in that state until the big promotion you want to be on pays attention to you. Don't just stay in one place expecting people to find you, because they never will.
They won't.
The territories
100%.
might be dead, but they still exist.
That's 100%. Yeah, you definitely got to go out and branch out, man. Um, we got we got a comment from a professional wrestler named Benny Blanco. Do you know Benny Blanco?
I do know Benny Blanco.
He says Noah's always been my guy 100. He wants to wrestle you.
One
I
day.
also know Benny Blanco. He's up here in New York right now. Yikes. Actually, I'm going to see him this
Benny's
Friday night.
fantastic. Tell Benny I said hey.
I will. 100. All right, like Benny says. All right, Serena says, if you could go back in time travel, back to one era in wrestling and one promotion, which one would you choose?
Oh, one era of wrestling and one promotion. This is oh my goodness.
That's a hard one.
I've got three in my head right now.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna go with 2015 Ring of Honor.
Okay.
2015 Ring of Honor. Second place was like 2016 Progress Wrestling. Those were my two.
Okay. What intrigued you about that year in Ring of Honor?
So for me, that year specifically in Ring of Honor, around that time, a lot of my favorites were wrestling there. Ring of Honor for me always has represented as if everyone else's goal was, the WWE or now AEW, what have you, my goal was always Ring of Honor, specifically around that time frame. Just because the matches that they were having, the structure of how they were doing things, and just the stories that they were telling really captivated me. It was the weekly show that I watched more than any of the others that I really followed. Jay Lethal becoming the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion and the television champion was my Cody moment before Cody. But him, Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe, Dalton Castle running around being Dalton Castle, the tail end of Kevin Steen before he became Kevin Owens, the House of Truth, the Decade, like it was my era of everything that I wanted to be in terms of a professional wrestler. And I think going back to that time frame, at least to wrestle there, I'd love to mix it up with Adam Cole. I'd love to mix it up with Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. I'd love to mix it up with Maria Kanellis. And, there was just so much going on at that point for me that it holds a really nostalgic value, but also Ring of Honor, statistically and historically, was if you made it there, you were world champion material, period. And for me, that was always the I want to see if I can hang with the best in the world. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
always say that to stay young and hungry, go where the young and hungry are. And for me, there was nobody that was younger and hungrier than those guys, um, at least at that time frame. Seconded only to Progress Wrestling in England. Um, and, then the landscape of everything changed and wrestling's a lot different place. But that for me is a special time for me as a viewer. And I would love to be there and just mix it up with those guys.
Right. Did you ever get a chance to wrestle Jay Lethal?
So Florida's weird. Florida's a very strange place. It's kind of like the Twilight Zone. I have not gotten the opportunity to wrestle with Jay Lethal. However, I have been on an insane amount of shows with Jay Lethal,
Uh huh.
as well as wrestled, I want to say, a good 80% of his student base that have come out of his school in the past, like 3-4 years. Um, it's a very strange place where I'm from.
All right. Did he ever give you any advice?
I have not had the opportunity from Jay directly. No.
Okay. All right. Maybe that could be something in the future in the Twilight Zone of Florida.
Fingers crossed.
Man, we covered a lot of ground today, so that's great. I appreciate all the feedback you're giving us. I think it's really good stuff, man. And Bryson over here, he started wrestling at 24. He says,
You're better than me. I couldn't do it.
and
I
Bryson
couldn't.
loves the first year of his career.
I've heard it said that when you get into wrestling, you stay the age that you got into wrestling at, and I've always envied people that got in when they were really young because they had a lot more time to in the figuring it out stage before they and still had a lot of extra time to go. But then as I've gotten older, I've realized I really like being a real adult. um, and when I look at some of the people and I'll see them starting at like 15, 16, 17 years old, it always kind of like now as I'm like getting older, I'm just like, man, you're a baby. You should this isn't you shouldn't be doing this. You should
It's a
be
tough business.
it's hard. I'm like, come on, like you should
I
get your
know.
life together first, man. Don't do this to yourself.
I see how hard it is when I'm working all these different companies, doing my vlogs and stuff, and getting to know the
Mhm.
talent, and I see the stuff that they all go through. I'm like, man, you must really love doing this.
You have to. I love that energy and I love that passion, but also I worry I worry so much when you're that young because it's
Right.
at the core of it all, it is entertainment, and there are some negative connotations that can come with that. And I always just worry about the youth in situations like that.
Right.
So
I, I,
whenever I'm
s-
around,
I see where you're coming from because obviously you've been around and you know this stuff. You see, there's good stuff in wrestling, but there's some
absolutely.
bad stuff in wrestling as
Oh
well
yeah.
that people don't see.
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel you with the youth, like that they're gonna go through that stuff and it's tough. But lucky for them, there's good mentors like you to help them guide them. So
I do the
thank you
best that
for
I
that.
can.
Bryce says I'm still feeling the senton. I threw off the second rope, so I feel you. That is a tough move, man. The
Oh yeah.
senton.
That's
Whew.
why I keep my feet on the ground.
All right. Type of gimmick match that you want to be in that you haven't been in.
Oh gosh. I have always wanted to do a dog collar match.
Okay.
I think that's it's a very interesting style of match. I don't see it too often, and I've always been interested in how we could dress that up and make it very interesting. I've always wanted, just the whole 9 yards, the pink fuzzy collar,
Uh huh.
the bedazzled lead, like I want to get weird with it.
That would be one of a
But
kind, 100%.
absolutely, but that's something that's always been in my back pocket of tricks.
Okay, good stuff. I remember interviewing someone at a young age in the business, Miss Masha Slamovich, who said that would be the match you would want to to do in her
Oh yeah,
career, and she eventually got to do it. And when I saw that moment, I was very happy for her.
very good. Always happy for Masha.
So good stuff. Have you ever been able to interact with her?
I have. There was a few GCW shows, small little interactions here or there. Got to see her at Big Gay Brunch. Chatted up with her for a while. Great people. Great people.
She is awesome. Yeah, very nice, and man, is she tough.
Oh, oh
I've
yeah.
seen her in
Oh
some
yeah.
brutal matches, like before she went and got where she is now, and I'm like, man, this girl's tough, man.
There was one match between her and Sawyer that still to this day sticks with me, where they just took out knives and just started knife fighting each other in the middle of the match, and I had to stop myself for a moment, and I was like, "Where am I? How? What choices in my life did I make that led
Oh,
me to this point where I'm watching two women try to
OMG.
stab each other in the middle of the ring?"
Masha's tough, man. She's tough. Don't
Oh
mess
yeah,
with her.
the the life that we choose to lead, I suppose.
Good stuff for professional wrestling. All right, Noah, last question. What does 2024, the rest of the year, hold for you?
Gosh, the rest of the year of 2024. I mean, I can tell you what it already is as I have it planned out in front of me. The rest of the year is just continuing to expand. I already have plans to go back to the West Coast. I've already started the southeastern expansion into Georgia, Alabama, all these different places down here. Eventually, fingers crossed, I might even end up your way in the
I hope
great.
so.
But that's a special secret tool that'll help us later. We'll wait for that to be announced, and then we can get excited about it.
Maybe Noah Vale versus Benny Blanco up here in New York somewhere?
Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
I'm definitely going to tell him this when I see him. Herb Simmons, how are you, sir? I will see you on Monday night as we got a very special podcast on Monday. Herb is the owner of SICW out in Missouri.
Oh wow,
If
fantastic.
if you have a Missouri license.
Well, Herb, it's very easy to get in contact with me, but we'll handle all that after the podcast. How about that?
All right, Noah, let everybody know where they can follow you and where they can get your merchandise.
If you would like to follow Noah Vale on any of your social medias, on Twitter/X, you can find me at Noah X Vale. Facebook, you can find me at Noah Vale. That's NOAHVEIL. On Instagram, you can find me at Noah Vale 97. And if you would like to support the House of Vale in all of its endeavors, because gas and food is not cheap, you can buy merchandise of the Noah Vale variety at noahvale.shop. Once again, that is noahvale.shop.
Right, Herb says Illinois. All right, Illinois. Well, you were in Missouri when I saw you, so. Noah, thank you for coming on the podcast. I enjoyed having this great conversation with you today, and hopefully
Not a
we can do this
problem.
again.
Absolutely. I have one question for you before we
Well,
end.
one question for me. It's not
I
about
see
my
those
23-6 championship, is it?
I see those pop vinyls in the background.
Oh, look at what I just got. Umaga.
What's your favorite pop vinyl that you have?
I got Zelina. This one's a nice one. It's heavy too. My
Hmm?
favorite one, it's got to have to be the Cody. I'm a huge
Okay.
Cody fan.
Alrighty.
Huge. And I have three. They came out with three, and I have all three of them signed.
Fantastic. I
And
respect that.
yeah, I'm a huge pop guy. Serena will tell you, but I just got this too. Rikishi signed.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got some good ones up there. I got Undertaker, Rhea Ripley, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Cody, Liv Morgan, Paul Heyman, Vince McMahon, which is very tough to get, especially nowadays.
Oh yeah. You've
AJ Lee, AJ Lee,
you've
King Lawler. Yeah, what's up? Bray
definitely
Wyatt.
definitely beaten me out. I think the only wrestling related pops that I have are the Young Bucks and Eddie Guerrero.
I have those too, and Omega.
Nice.
I don't have the Buck sign, but I have Omega sign.
We got to get on that.
I was lucky. I got when I worked at Victory Pro Wrestling up here in Long Island, there was a guy who used to come up. His name is Tim, who now owns Battleground Wrestling. You might see in Philadelphia. He sold me a lot of those ones, including the Vince at the time, which was I think 2016 around there.
Ooh, that's not a
So
terrible. That's not a terrible buy at all.
no, especially I had paid $40 for this thing. That's what he sold it to me for, $40. It was a
Well,
steal.
well, I just had to know. I hate to take up more of your time, but
No, it's okay. I got another podcast, but Pops on my thing. Next time you come on, we'll discuss Funko Pops more. John Cena, can't
absolutely,
forget John Cena. This is the last Cena year coming up.
R.I.P.
Yes.
The retirement tour. But we'll save it
No,
all for the next podcast. How about that?
we definitely will. Everybody have a good night. Just